KURINJI Senior Secondary School, CBSE, Namakkal.
Successful result producing school in state every year.
Administered by the Board of Directors with over 35 years of experience in the teaching field.
Special attention on art, craft, music, dance, silambam, yoga, skating and karate.
Focus on Hindi Sabha and Spell Bee Olympiad exams.
Smart class for effective and innovative learning and well-furnished library.
Solitary importance on sports and games in state and national level.
WhatsApp facilities to know activities of students and school inside the campus.
NEET, JEE, IIT coaching experts from Rajasthan and Andhra Pradesh along with our effective teachers.
Admission registration for classes LKG to +2.
KURINJI Educational Institution, Kavetipatti, Namakkal. Admission in progress. CBSE, KG to 12, contact 9025895176. Metric 6 to 12, contact 9344567484. For online admission, log on to www.kurinjischoolnkl.com.
Today we are going to discuss the most important chapter from organic chemistry. The chapter name is Biomolecules. Especially in NEET point of view, JEE Advanced Mains point of view, this chapter is very important. But in this academic year, CBSE board deleted some concept. So actually, biomolecules is nothing but carbohydrates, proteins, enzymes, nucleic acid, vitamins and hormones. But in this academic year, only two parts, carbohydrates and proteins. So remaining all parts are deleted. So that's why, my dear students, in this session we are going to discuss biomolecule, especially carbohydrates and proteins. Okay ma? Okay ma. Students, biomolecule chapter. It means it's a huge molecule. Biomolecules are huge molecules. It's to play very important key role, especially in the living organisms. So now see here, living systems are made up of various complex biomolecules. Living systems are made up of various complex biomolecules such as carbohydrates, proteins, enzymes, nucleic acids and vitamins and hormones. So these all biomolecules are poly category. It is nothing but poly units, huge molecules. But especially in this session or in this chapter, carbohydrates, the complete information regarding to the carbohydrates, preparation method, structures and cyclic structures are very very important. And similarly, protein concept is also very very important. So that's why finally, my dear students, proteins and carbohydrates are essential constituents of our food. These biomolecules interacted with each other and constituted the molecular logic of the life process. In addition, some simple molecules like vitamins and mineral salts also play an important role in the function of the organisms. So that is the most important part of the carbohydrates and proteins. See, these all biomolecules are to play very important key roles in the living organisms, especially plants and animals and even human beings also. So now we are going to start the first biomolecule. The name is the carbohydrates. First biomolecule, the name is the carbohydrates. So actually, my dear student, carbohydrates are mainly combination compounds of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. That is the most important point. Carbohydrates, the combination of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. Actually, that's why the carbohydrates general formula, initially the scientists are suggested the general formula of carbohydrate CxH2O takens Y times. It's mean carbon is compulsory, but initial time this formula is suggested as scientists in the initial manner. So CxH2O Y time. It means it's carbohydrates, the combination of generally three elements: carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. But entire the carbohydrate general formula is CxH2O takens Y time. Why? Because the initial scientists are strongly believed the carbohydrates, the combination of the carbon with the water molecule. Why? Because carbon with water molecule. Why the scientists are suggested this formula as a general formula of carbohydrate? Because of any one of the carbohydrate treated with concentrated acid to give black color residue. So black color residue and water is absorbed the sulfuric acid. Because you know that very well, my dear students, sulfuric acid is a powerful dehydrating agent. So that's why whenever added to the sulfuric acid to any carbohydrate, that sulfuric acid absorb the water molecule, completely absorb the water molecule from the carbohydrates and to give black color residue. So based on this information, especially based on this information, the scientists are suggested the general formula of the carbohydrate is CxH2O taken Y times. So that's why it means initially carbohydrates means the combination of carbon and water. So the general representation formula of the carbohydrate CxH2O taken Y times. Okay ma? So now we are going to discuss some important carbohydrate. For example, here C6H12O6, it's glucose, C6H12O6. How this glucose completely fitted in the above formula. So see, C6H2O taken 6 times. So glucose completely fit in this above formula. Next one, C12H22O11. It's a sucrose. Now this sucrose is also exactly fit in the above formula. But here important point is, my dear students, most important point, but all carbohydrates does not fit this formula. So actually scientists are suggested the general formula of carbohydrates is CxH2O taken Y times, but this formula is not suitable for, it's not fit for all kind of carbohydrates, because of, see for example, best example, acetic acid general formula CH3COOH. Actually acetic acid is not a carbohydrate. Okay, it's not a carbohydrate, it is an acid, but this formula exactly fit the above general formula. See here, C2H2O taken 2 times. So now here CH3COOH, 2 carbons, here 2 carbons are there. 5 hydrogens are 4, 2 2s are 4, oxygens are 2. So this is not a carbohydrate. Acetic acid is not a carbohydrate, but it fit in the above formula. So is one of the drawback of CxH2O Y time formula. So this is whenever you decided general formula of the any compound, that compound only exactly belongs to the same category of the product. But here this formula is suitable for some acids, especially acetic acid. That's why it is one of the drawback. Okay. Next, see here. This is same molecular formula, but it's not a carbohydrate. Here, same molecular formula, but it's not a carbohydrate. And second one, raminose. See nana here, raminose formula C6H12O5. It is a carbohydrate. Completely, see, it is carbohydrate but not suitable general formula. So raminose C6H12O6, it is a purely carbohydrate but it's not fit in the carbohydrate. Finally, so but actually the general formula still now is also considered as a general formula of carbohydrate CxH2O taken Y times. But some drawbacks is there. It's not satisfy all kind of area, this formula, but scientists are still have also followed the same formula. But scientists later after these experiments, he suggested modern definitions of carbohydrate. So carbohydrates, it's not a combination of carbon and water. Because of the some experiments are given good result, carbohydrates is not contains carbon and water. It's another products are there. So finally the scientists said modern definitions of carbohydrate. Modern definitions of the carbohydrate. Now see my dear students here. The modern definitions of carbohydrate. The carbohydrate may be defined as optically, most important definition my dear students, optically active polyhydroxyaldehyde or ketone. Optically active means here in every carbohydrates chiral carbon is present here. So chiral carbon is always optically active. That's why in the definition point of view, modern definition point of view, carbohydrates are nothing but optically active polyhydroxyaldehyde and ketone functional groups compounds are called carbohydrate. It means, my dear students, carbohydrate it's not having carbon and water. It is a combination of the aldehyde and or ketone. It's nothing but definitely carbonyl compounds. What are the carbonyl compounds? Either aldehyde or ketone. So in carbohydrate, see definition, optically active polyhydroxyl group. Hydroxyl group is nothing but the number of the OH group. That number of OH groups contains the combination of the aldehyde and ketone. So finally listen my dear students very carefully. Carbohydrates are nothing but the combination of the carboxylic group, combinations of the carbonyl group such as aldehyde and ketone. So optically active polyhydroxyaldehyde or ketone functional groups compounds are called carbohydrates. Okay ma? So now see, carbohydrates also called saccharides. So all carbohydrates generally name is saccharides. It means in the Greek language saccharon, this word is derived from the saccharon. Saccharons are nothing but sugar. Already initially I told my dear students, carbohydrates is nothing but it's not a combination of carbon and water because of the some experiments given this value. So what is the combinations of carbohydrate? Aldehyde functional group or ketone functional group. Generally polyhydroxy means definitely every carbohydrates containing aldehyde group or ketone group with number of the OH groups. So that is called carbohydrate. It's not a combination of carbon and water. That's why once again I repeated the definition. 1 mark point of view, 2 mark point of view is most important. Optically active polyhydroxyaldehyde or ketone functional groups compounds are called carbohydrate. Now here see carefully, 2 examples are there. Glucose, fructose. See, glucose general formula, fructose general formula same, C6H12O6. But in this glucose open chain structure na CHO, COHH, COHH and COHH, CHHOH. So now see carefully, this is carbohydrate, purely carbohydrate. But here not there any water molecule, but number of the polyhydroxy groups are there, polyhydroxy group. So in this glucose, how many hydroxyl group? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. More than 2 OH groups is there, generally is a polyhydroxy. But number of polyhydroxy combination with what kind of the carbonyl compounds are there here? CH double bond, aldehyde group is there. So in the glucose carbohydrate, polyhydroxyaldehydes are there. So already I told either ketone group or aldehyde groups is present in the carbohydrate along with hydroxyl group, that is considered as a carbohydrates. Now in this glucose, see here, it's a aldehyde functional group is there along with polyhydroxy. So the modern definition is perfectly fit in this carbohydrates. So once again, carbohydrates are nothing but polyhydroxyaldehyde ketone functional group along with already polyhydroxyaldehyde ketone functional group, it's called carbohydrates. And synonym, one more carbohydrate example, fructose. Same molecular formula, but the structure is different. Now see here also the number of the hydroxyl group is 1 2 3 4 5. 5 hydroxyl groups is there, 5 hydroxyl group, but here aldehyde group is not there. Ketone is a major functional group. Ketone is major functional group. That's why, my dear students, in this carbohydrate ketone is present along with the polyhydroxyl group. In this example, aldehyde is present along with the polyhydroxyl group. Okay ma? So that's why finally why are repeated number of times means the definition is very important. Every year in board exam point of view frequently is coming in this definition. So optically active, already I told what is optically active. This is the chiral carbon 4 connected region. So this chiral carbon maybe will change its OH group or H group frequently. That's why in this definition point of view, optically active polyhydroxy, this what are the polyhydroxyl groups are there in the carbohydrates, they are easily to change their position. That's why optically active polyhydroxyaldehyde or ketone functional groups compounds are called carbohydrates. Is clear my definition? So carbohydrates are commonly known as saccharides. Saccharides means sugar. Okay na? Good. Next one, classification of carbohydrate. Put star mark nana. It's a most important part. Classification of carbohydrates is very important in board level 4 marks point of view, and the NEET level also most important. Which one? Classification of carbohydrates based on taste, based on the taste. So this classification completely based on the taste and hydrolysis. But I didn't mention that hydrolysis, but major part is based on the taste. Carbohydrates, two types based on the taste. Number 1, sugar. Number 2, non-sugar. Sugar and non-sugar. See here, the sugars, it's nothing but tasted carbohydrates. Sugars are nothing but tasted carbohydrates. Non-sugars are nothing but tasteless carbohydrates. So in this carbohydrate, my dear students, two type of the carbohydrates are there, sugars and non-sugars. So sugars is nothing but which carbohydrates give taste, that is a sugars. Which carbohydrate does not give the taste, that is the non-sugars. Okay ma? Now the sugars again two types nana, based on the hydrolysis. Based on the hydrolysis, it means the sugars, whenever hydrolysis is water, they are two types, mainly two types. Sugars especially based on the hydrolysis process, two types, monosaccharides and oligosaccharides. But non-sugars, only one category, polysaccharides. So based on the hydrolysis, sugars are two types, monosaccharides, oligosaccharides. It means monosaccharide means such kind of the carbohydrates whenever hydrolysis in water to give only one unit of carbohydrate, that is called monosaccharides. For example, glucose. Glucose is a monosaccharide. Why? Because glucose, whenever hydrolysis with water, does not give any units. So that's why it is called monosaccharide. So see once again, what is a monosaccharide? Some carbohydrates whenever hydrolysis with water only to give one kind of the unit saccharides, that is called monosaccharides. And oligosaccharides, this kind of the carbohydrates whenever hydrolysis in the water to give 2 to 9 monomer units. This is the most important point. Oligosaccharides are nothing but whenever you hydrolysis in the water to give 2 to 9 units of monomer. That's why here di, tri, tetra up to nona. So disaccharide, trisaccharide, tetrasaccharide, pentasaccharide, hexasaccharide, heptasaccharide, octasaccharide, nonasaccharide. So disaccharide category, because of oligosaccharide means this kind of the carbohydrate whenever soluble in the water, either 2 units is given or 3 units or 4 units, 5 units, 6 units, up to 9 units is given. So that's why the oligosaccharides whenever hydrolysis in the water 2 to 9 monomer units are released. So for example, see disaccharide. Disaccharide best example sucrose. Disaccharide best example sucrose. It means in this sucrose combinations of 2 monomer units. Number 1 is the glucose, number 2 is the fructose. So that's why sucrose is the oligosaccharide of disaccharides. Otherwise sucrose is the disaccharide from the oligosaccharide category. Because of this sucrose again, listen carefully, this sucrose again hydrolysis in the water to give 2 monomer units. Number 1 glucose and number 2 fructose. But the glucose, single glucose or single fructose monomer unit. If sucrose hydrolysis with water to give 2 units of monomer unit, that is called disaccharide. Sucrose is a disaccharide. But glucose again your hydrolysis in water, it does not give any monomer unit. That's why glucose is the category of monosaccharide. Okay na? So sucrose is a disaccharide and trisaccharides category. See na, trisaccharides category, raffinose formula C8H32O16, but the combination of 3 monomer units, galactose, glucose, fructose. This bit is most important. What are the combination of monomer units of raffinose? Raffinose formula C8H32O16. So galactose, glucose, fructose. Okay ma? Again here come to first point, monosaccharide. Monosaccharides are, already I told, this type of the saccharide is not given any type of another saccharide after hydrolysis. So these are 2 types, aldose and ketose. Aldose is nothing but especially aldehyde as a major functional group in the aldehyde. Aldehyde is a major functional group in carbohydrates. Those are called aldose. Those are called aldose. Ketose is nothing but it's a monosaccharide, but ketone group is a major functional group. So these are called ketose. So in my further classifications are there, aldose and ketose. Later I will explain after completions of this session. So aldose is nothing but aldehyde is a major functional group. Ketose is nothing but ketone is a major functional group, especially in the glucose aldehyde. Aldehyde is a major functional group. So aldose category glucose is a best example, and ketose category fructose is the best example. These are the monosaccharide. In my next class I will be continue monosaccharide classification. I will discuss aldose, number of examples of aldose, number of examples of ketose. Okay ma? Next non-sugars. Already you know that very well. Tasteless carbohydrates are generally non-sugars. Tasteless carbohydrates are generally non-sugars. So for example, from this category polysaccharide. So polysaccharide means this kind of the sugars, non-sugars, whenever hydrolysis with water, more than 10 units saccharides are released. More than 10 units. So that's for example starch. So starch is nothing but the number of the monomer unit of the glucose, more than 10 units. That's why starch taste, for example rice powder nana. Starch is the best example, rice powder. It's a tasteless carbohydrate, but it's a carbohydrate, tasteless carbohydrates. Okay, na? Next one, cellulose. Cellulose is also carbohydrate from the category of non-sugars, but number of monomer units are present. That's why starch, cellulose, glycogen is animal fat. Glycogen is animal fat. It's containing number of monomer units. That's why gums. These are all of them as category of the polysaccharide because of the more than 10 units are present here. More than 10 units are present here. This is the most important examples point of view. Disaccharide, sucrose, trisaccharides is the raffinose, tetrasaccharide, pentasaccharide and hexasaccharide up to nonosaccharides are the oligosaccharide. So from this area, the may be possible short questions coming from this especially. So what is the monosaccharide? Question, what is a monosaccharide? Such carbohydrates whenever hydrolysis with water does not produce more than one monomer unit, those are called monosaccharides. What is oligosaccharides category? Oligosaccharides category means this kind of the carbohydrate whenever soluble in the water to give 2 to 9 monomer units. 2 to 9 monomer units. For example, already explained sucrose. Sucrose is nothing but the combinations of the glucose and fructose. So here how many monomer units are there here? 2. That's why it's a disaccharide. Disaccharide. And trisaccharide, raffinose. What is the combination of raffinose? Galactose, glucose and fructose. This is the carbohydrate classification based on the taste and hydrolysis. Here hydrolysis, here hydrolysis. This two one is the taste based. So in my next session I will be continue remaining classification of the sugars, especially monosaccharide, aldose and ketose. What is the definitions of aldose, ma? So aldehyde is a major functional group of carbohydrate. Those are called aldose. Ketone is a major functional group of carbohydrate, that is called ketose. So oligosaccharide 2 to 9 monomer units are there. Polysaccharide more than 10 monomer units. Examples of polysaccharide from non-sugars level from non-sugars category: starch, cellulose and glycogen and gums. Okay, ma? In my next class I will be continue monosaccharide classification. Okay, na?